The Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel welcomes you to this edition of the Mayors and Supervisors Weekly Update, brought to you by...
Each week, our community makes history. Each week, you make history. And each week, there's only one source to turn to for the first take on history. You know what that is? Subscribe to the Sentinel right now to discover the history being made in your own backyard.
The Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel. More than just your news, it's your history.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's Mayors and Supervisors Update. I'm Chris Carosa, publisher of the Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel, and each week we bring you the goings-on in the towns and villages we cover. This week we'll be starting out in Henrietta, leaving where we left off last week after the power went out on Steve. Steve, what's going on now in Henrietta?
Yeah, so it's funny. As you were saying, I was just talking about how, we had just finished a massive effort to keep the roads clean the previous weekend, and with all the extreme cold, we had some water main breaks, including right down at the end of the street, and apparently it disrupted power just long enough for my computer to shut down. And by the time I came back on, you were off. So I was just about to start some updates on what's been happening. So the East River Road project, where we worked with the county, they improved the road. We added a sidewalk and multimodal trail from Lehigh Station all the way up to the entrance to RIT. That actually received an award from the APWA. And the other great thing about it is we saved so much money in the project working with the county. We essentially did all the construction at the same time, so you save on essentially you get economies of scale. That we actually have money left over in the grants, and I have no intention of returning those to the state. So we are working right now with the New York State Department of Transportation, and we've put together improvements to the Erie Station Road intersection. So we would have opposing left turn lanes. We'd reconfigure it to have opposing left turn lanes, northbound and southbound straight lanes, which also would, for southbound, would also be right turn. For northbound, we would actually have a dedicated right turn lane. And so that would greatly improve that intersection. We would also put in signalized crosswalks. So people crossing from Riverton who want to get over to the retail plazas across the street will be able to do that. So because it intersects with a state road, we need to get the state to sign off on it. And I will just say they are not as expedient as the county. That the improvements would extend a little bit further south from there. The center left turn lane would continue south to a street called Planters Row. That's the entrance to the new subdivision there. That would keep people from swinging around vehicles onto the shoulder, which can be dangerous if there happens to be a pedestrian or a bicyclist on the shoulder. Not to mention if they go too far, they crumble the edge of the pavement. So hopefully that'll be in the works this spring. Construction of our dog kennel is a bit behind because of this extreme cold weather. It's been too cold to make concrete. They can actually make concrete below the freezing temperature because it generates enough heat, but not when it's single digits cold. So we're looking at next week getting our foundations in. This weekend is supposed to be brutally cold, but then it's supposed to warm up. So assuming that holds true, we'll start doing that. We do have submittals in, and some big news on the project that helps the other three towns out is the town of Brighton is joining in on the project. So that reduces the cost to Henrietta, Wheatland, and Rush, who, the three of us had gone in together on this project. And then I also was up till about 5 a.m. putting together a local government efficiency grant. So that's basically one where you save money by multiple municipalities working together. So this falls right into that sweet spot. So I'm really hopeful we'll get that, because that will then fully equip and stock the kennel, and again save us money, because the state basically put out a new mandate as far as how these dog shelters have to be equipped, and includes things like radiant flooring and massive HVAC and all sorts of. You have to have a quarantine kennel that is negative air pressure and a nursing kennel that's positive air pressure. And of course, it's unfunded other than grants. So we've been greatly pursuing grants because it becomes very difficult for municipalities to afford it, especially the smaller municipalities. It would just represent way too large a chunk of their budget. So it's great that the four of us were able to go in on this together. For the band shell, the contractor Whitney East was able to get in the helical steel supports bored into the ground. We had that one, I don't know, 3 or 4 days where it was 30 or 40 degree weather, and they mobilized and got those driven into the ground. So now again, we just have to wait till it's warm enough to pour concrete. Hopefully they'll be doing it this next week when we are working on the dog kennel. So we used to have I'll call it a pop-up band shell. It was a little bit more intricate than that, but it was canvas, and we would take it down every winter, and it's kind of been showing its age, and so we're switching to a permanent band shell. This is being partly funded by we had is Green Spark Solar. Green Spark has done a lot of projects in the area, and one of the projects to do it. They needed to do it through our incentive zoning, and they chose to put a bunch of money towards this new band shell. So we're excited about that. Our senior center, one of our HVAC units broke down, included a crack in the heat exchanger that creates a carbon monoxide risk. So we've been operating without it. When the temperatures were in the 20s and 30s, the other two units, there's 3 units that heat the whole big area, could keep up. When it got to single digits, it was a little cold. We had to close that room off. And the reason it took a little longer than normal is it did not make sense to spend the $7,000 to $8,000 to repair the existing unit, especially since, oh, by the way, that's where we're going to be expanding our senior center. So we worked with EC4B, which is the company that is doing the design for that expansion, and we purchased a brand new unit that will work for now, heating, and then we'll in the spring we'll remove it, we'll expand that area, and then we'll install it in its new location where it will service the new center. So it's a bit larger size than what we need here. In fact, we wouldn't be able to hook it up from a air conditioning standpoint because the wiring is insufficient in its current location. But in its new location, we'll have the increased wiring, and it'll be able to operate at full. So that actually essentially saves us the cost of repair because we were going to have to purchase this new unit for the senior center anyways. The expansion of the senior center, again, the plans are moving along, and we expect to start that in the spring. As I think I've mentioned in the past, it's now up to 2 different expansions. One is the original expansion of the dining area, and that's going to add, let's see, do math real quick. That's going to add about 3,000 square feet, almost doubling the size of the one portion of the dining area. And then we're also we're extending our kitchen and utility and storage area 25 feet to the north. So the first one was through a grant we received from Monroe County. Monroe County had the ARPA money left over, and they split it up amongst all the towns, cities, and villages in the county for additions, improvements to facilities and programming for seniors and youth. We chose to use ours for our senior center. And then the kitchen expansion is through a grant from Assembly Member Harry Bronson. And then rounding out the funding for both of them was a bequeath from a couple that were both longtime members of the senior center, and they left us a good chunk of change in their their will, and so that's going to help pay for these improvements at senior center. So we're very excited about that, and that's the primary update on where we are.
All right. Thanks, Steve. I'm going to read what Rick Milne sent from the village of Honeoye Falls. He says, as the area and region continue to fight bitter cold conditions, we remind our residents that with many of the frigid temperatures, the salt and some salt brine mixes may not work as well to minimize the ice conditions. Please take extreme caution while walking and driving throughout the community. A reminder to continue to reach out to neighbors that may need a bit more assistance in these cold temperatures, and please remember to keep pets inside as well. Ice damming on roofs has been the big issue for many. As you look around, the icicles hanging off buildings and homes have been immense. Please be aware of this and remember to watch your children, as these icicles can be very dangerous if they fall from roof areas. This week, Rick has spent a bulk of the time in Albany at the New York State Conference of Mayors winter legislative meetings and met with many elected officials from across the state. This is also a time that he's able to meet with many of the senators and assembly members that represent our community and area. He appreciates the time afforded him by Assembly Member Lunsford, Senator Helming, and Senator Cooney. Working to bring funding to our community is always a main goal for Rick, and he appreciates the support he's been given. On Wednesday, February 11th, he'll have a legislative office hour set up at the Mendon Public Library beginning at around 5:30 p.m. This is something that they do as legislators for Monroe County to meet with residents that may have questions or concerns that are specifically county related. This is open to residents of Mendon and Honeoye Falls, and there is not a specific dialogue or agenda that is scheduled. He hopes to see you there. That's from Rick Milne, Mayor of Honeoye Falls and Monroe County Legislative District number 5. And with that, we're going to go over to Tim Schiefen in the town of West Bloomfield. What's, I don't know, a W word. What's wandering in West Bloomfield?
How about where? Thank you. Let's see. I got your notes, and I'll run down my notes from your notes. At our most recent town board meeting, that would be our January meeting for me. That was my first meeting. We started day one in the new atmosphere with me guiding the helm of the ship. And we added a few things back into the meeting that my predecessor took out. One was the Pledge of Allegiance. The other was public comment time. They call it privilege of the floor out here, and that was limited to the will of the prior supervisor. We now have an official public comment time before the meeting and after the meeting. I prefer that. I think my constituents prefer that. They seem to like it at that meeting. We voted on the standard fare stuff at that meeting. That was our organizational meeting. So, since I didn't have a lot of fingers in the pot last year, I was sitting in the audience most of the time. We're just basically moving ahead with business as usual based on last year's things and agendas and so on, and the budget that was left for me by my predecessor. Moving on, we did recently have a planning board meeting. We had a new attendee in the audience who is a potential board member. His name is Mr. Todd Caffo. Mr. Caffo is a longtime resident, an old friend. He's also a engineer with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. I think Mr. Caffo's talents and skills will be a fantastic addition to the planning board. It looks like our planning board members and he had a nice conversation at the end of their meeting, and they all seemed very upbeat and excited that we can fill that empty seat. It's been empty for quite some time. We currently have an interim planning board chairman, Mike Borges, great fellow. He's filling the shoes for our recently resigned planning board chairman. We had some internal issues that we had to work through, and our most recent planning board chairman stepped down. So we're at a loss for a chairman at the moment. We're working on filling that position as well. We do have a candidate available for that, but we've got to get some logistics sorted out before we can fill that seat. We also have openings on our zoning board. Last week, I had the pleasure of having lunch with a Mr. Jim Bruner, and Jim is the vice president of the Tri-State Land Clearing and Tree Company that's located on the corner of Olmsted and 5 and 20. That's a recent business addition to our community. They've got a nice facility there, a nice new building, a very attractive looking office. Their operation is very neatly run. It's very well presented, a very professional group. Jim is a real neat guy. I got to know him a little bit over a couple of sandwiches, and down to earth, your typical burly tree cutting guy, kind of, made me impressed because that's where I come from. I'm a blue collar guy. It would be nice to have a guy that rolls up his sleeves and gets to work, and I see that in Jim. That moves me on to the next town board meeting, which is next Wednesday night, the 11th of February. We're hopeful that we can get some action and we can fill these appointments. Unfortunately, we have a missing town board member, or we had a member resign December 24th, and we've got to fill his seat. And one of my carryover members has informed me that he's not available that night. So there's only going to be 3 of us present to try to come to a unanimous decision to get these board seats filled. We're hopeful we can do that, and if we can't, we'll put it off to March. We do have 3 people that came forward with an interest to fill that open board seat. I have a young school teacher. I shouldn't say young. I don't know how old she is, but she's much younger than me, and her name is Christy Mulhern. Again, nice local lady resident. Seems like she's got some credentials that might lend to a board member seat. We have a gentleman named Steve DeGraw. I've known Steve a long time. His wife was very polite and nominated me to be on the Democrat ticket, even though I'm a nasty, rotten Republican. She said very nice, kind things to me. Steve's a pretty down-to-earth guy as well. He's a customer of mine at my auto repair shop. I've known Steve a long time. He's got quite a bit of credentials that might make a good board member. Our last candidate is Julie Evely. Julie Evely was on the Democrat ticket last November. She fell short by about 29 votes. I've known Julie for 25 years. My children went to school together. I had her son in the Scout program for a number of years. Fantastic family. She's an extremely educated lady. Her and her husband have been members of the community for 28 or more years. She has her own business. She provides counseling and does some forms of social work and so on. I also made her my deputy supervisor. That's how much I respect her, and that's how much I embrace her I'm very hopeful that she's going to float to the top. I like her quite a bit. Beyond that, right now our assessor is having her way with our constituents. I'm fielding a lot of calls, unhappy constituents. I have 4 properties in this town. You can add my name to the list of unhappy constituents. This is going to be a delicate process. I can see that. I'll let you know how that pans out over here over the next month or 2, because this is some additional potholes in the road that I'm finding myself on these days. Other than that, I'm having a really fantastic time doing this. I talk to a lot of people. I'm thankful that I've got a diverse background, and hopefully I'm bringing some good skills to this position. Years ago, I went to a training, and this guy from the Hard Rock Cafe stood up there in a Western shirt and ripped blue jeans and tried to tell me how I needed to define my culture at my business and treat my employees like they were volunteers. And I thought the guy was a lunatic. I left there with more questions than I went there with. But look at me now. I'm now defining the culture at the town of West Bloomfield. We've got a great atmosphere. We've got terrific responses. My predecessor couldn't fill any of these board seats with 35 days on the job. I've got two candidates in line ready to sit in board seats. So hopefully that speaks volumes for the culture that we now have down there. And I'm hoping that we can continue this progress, and I'm hoping that we have a happier, friendlier place for our constituents to come and feel like they're treated well and respected. And I'm going to end it there. I'm eager to see what's going on in Rush. It's great to see Steve and Lee here on the forum. Where's Joe?
Joe just texted me. He's having trouble getting on. So hopefully he will before Lee's done. Thanks, Tim. So Lee, there you are. What's happening in Rush?
Well, good morning. First of all, I would like to start with a brief tribute to Alvin Sweet, who passed away and whose funeral was held on February 4th in Rush, where his life of service to the Rush community was recognized. Al was a leader in building our first Rush Fire Department, to protecting and saving lives of property and residents for 75 years in Rush. He will be greatly missed, but there is no doubt that his legacy will continue. A great champion and role model for youth. Well, the winter weather continues to be a major focus for us in the town. A lot of ice damage, a lot of heavy snow created problems with some leakage in staff offices. But I brought in a roofing company that does work for the town, and we were able to take a lot of the ice away, and the leaking stopped. So as soon as the snow melts, we will be working on trying to solve those problems so that we don't have it again every time it snows heavy. I'm still working with the staff to better understand what they do and the inner workings of our town government, and learning how our services and programs operate. We're also pleased to support Supervisor Schultz from Henrietta in seeking additional funding for the kennel that we share. We are fortunate to be a partner in this important effort. Last, we're glad to receive notification that our concept proposal for a grant was accepted by the New York State Department of Transportation, the first step in submitting a full proposal in matching for funding to make our intersection at 251 and Route 15A safer for pedestrians and bicyclists. I will be seeking the town board approval to continue our pursuit of these funds. And that's pretty much where we are right now.
Okay.
There's a lot going on, and I'm learning a lot still. And we will be moving forward. We also do have one open seat on our Board of Appeals also, which we're trying now to have a meeting, an executive session at our next town board meeting to fill that position. So we do have 3 great candidates that will be interviewed for that position.
All right. Thanks, Lee.
That's Rush for us. Thank you.
Yeah. Tim or Steve, do you have anything more to add? Seeing nothing, I guess that we don't. Oh, wait. I don't know. Steve, you don't have anything? Okay, good. I don't know where Joe is. We'll try to get a report from him and put it in the paper. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you all for listening. Remember, this program airs every Sunday at 1:00 in the afternoon on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Like the page or subscribe to the channel, and those platforms will inform you when the broadcast begins. Tim is all hands here. I guess he's clapping. Silent clap. Otherwise, you can read the transcript in next week's paper. That's all for now. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Imagine yourself communicating with a difference. Pan-Dimensional Solutions helps you do this. Whether live spectator events, taped broadcasts, or real-time audience-engaging programs, you can benefit immediately from the tools Pan-Dimensional Solutions will share with you. Do you want to make a difference? Contact us at pandimensional.com.